All right, guys. Just two questionable for the game. D Ford and Street.
Will Mike Person start at right guard for you?
I'm not sure yet.
In terms of Quan Alexander, Kyle, will you be activating him tomorrow off IR?
Yeah, we have to do it by 1, so plan on doing that tomorrow.
Do we know who he's going to replace on the roster?
Probably got a pretty good idea. We got more time to think about it, so wait till 12:59 tomorrow.
Kyle, when you guys have that week off, did you have to kind of manage the emotions of this week or the energy just to make sure the guys don't peak too soon?
A little bit. It's a little bit different. Everyone calls it a bye week, but it's not a bye week because bye weeks you usually want to get away for a little bit because you got a long season ahead of you. This wasn't something you wanted to get away from, but we also needed the time. We wanted to take advantage of the time to rest and recover from a long season and get a little bit healthier, more energy. But at the same time, you got to stay into it every single day. So it was usually 1 day off, 2 days on. But we only had 2 full speed practices, so I think we were able to rest our bodies and make us fresher this week. But I know our guys are ready to get out there. It's been too long now, and we can't wait for Saturday.
As a head coach on a bye week, do you have to guard against doing too much or adding too much new stuff to your game plan? Now that you have all this extra time to look?
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think it helps not knowing who you're going to play for sure till that weekend. Everyone says you're going to get ahead, but I mean, you can't get ahead on 3. I think it was 3 possibilities. You can't get fully ahead on 3 teams, so you peak all of them. And but yeah, I think a little of that's overrated. But sometimes you have too much time and you have more time to overthink stuff. So I think it was perfect how it worked out.
Minnesota's been able to keep together their defensive players and their coaches for a long time under a salary cap era where it's really hard to do. How does that manifest itself on film when you watch them?
That's why they look like one of the better defenses in the league. Anytime you have the scheme that they have with the coaching staff and you have the talent that they've gotten over the years, mainly through the draft. But then when you keep those guys and you have a good scheme and talented guys who play together year after year, that's why I believe they're the toughest defense we faced this year, and that's why I think they're where they're at.
What's your message to Jimmy this week?
Just be you. Do the same thing you do every single day. So I didn't give him a big message this week. Just talk to him the same way I have every other week.
Kyle, veteran players sometimes talk about how the playoffs are different, like it feels different, you have to prepare different. What about from a coaching standpoint? If you're coaching a playoff game, is it any different than coaching a regular season game?
I mean, everything's different because if you lose, it's over. So everyone knows that, and that's a different feeling. But to me, that's just feelings. I mean, that's nerves and emotions. After that, nothing's different. It's a football game. The rules are all the same. Nothing changes.
Is there an advantage to maybe not knowing the stakes for players who haven't been in the playoffs before? Can it just be a little bit?
I think maybe. I think it depends on the person. Maybe not for a whole team. I think it's different for each individual. That's what I do think has been neat about this year is, we didn't just really fall into it at the end. Starting out 8-0 like we did, and where everyone's trying to catch you, and you don't really clinch anything till the last week or the week before. Every week has kind of felt like playoffs to us. I mean, when you work so hard to start out that way, lots of people relax at the last couple of games because you've done it, and it's been neat that we were able to start out that way, have a pretty good record all year, but we've never been able to relax at all. So when you're like that, I mean, the last 5 games of the year, I've said this throughout the week, but they all felt like playoff games because you really feel like all the good you've done to get to where you're at, none of it matters until you clinch that playoff spot so you get the highest seed you can. And we did, and had a couple days to enjoy it. Now we're just ready to get to this game.
And to that point, how do you minimize the distractions that come with a playoff game naturally? There's more media, there are more ticket requests for players. What have you told those guys?
I always try to talk about, I mean, the media just comes with it, and there's designated times that everyone's got to talk. So, that's just part of the job and what you got to do. There's just more people there, but it's the same minutes and everything that were allocated to talk to everybody. I think the biggest difference is understanding your family and the people who care about you and stuff. I mean, now they're really into it. Now like it's their life, and I respect that. That's how I grew up. When my dad was in the playoffs, that was everything to me. So I know that's how it is for all of our players and their significant others, their families, and the stuff. We just try to tell them that, guys, it's different for all of them, but it's the same for us. And don't let other people's perception or how they're feeling affect you. And that is reality. It's also human nature. But if you don't address that on stuff, and you pay attention to how everyone else is anxious, how everyone's trying to come, everyone's worried about tickets. Now all of a sudden you're worrying about stuff that doesn't matter, and that's how you don't perform to your ability.
Why are you stuck with Tevin Coleman as your starting running back?
Because Tevin brings a lot to our game. I know he hasn't had the same yards per carry as Raheem has done. I don't really care much who the starter is. It's all those guys play. Raheem's got the bulk of it. So usually, in my opinion, the guy who gets the bulk of the carries is usually the guy we call the starter because we're treating him as the starter. If he's not out there the first play, I know no one else calls him the starter because that's what matters, I guess, to be called a starter. But Tevin started out that way this year. I think he handles it very well. I think Raheem's very comfortable in his situation when he comes in and doesn't have a problem with it. And there's a different element to all of them. And I do like having Tevin out there because the way he hits holes, he brings a little different physicality to the game. But I like what all our backs do.
You and the Vikings have kind of bucked the league-wide trend in the way that you use the fullback. Why is it important for you to have an impact player like Kyle at that position?
You always try to get the best player at every position that you can, and so we were pumped to get Juice when we got him. I just know, me personally, I like having a fullback because I feel like that's the only way you can dictate your terms. When you have a fullback in the game, if you really want to run the ball, you can run the ball regardless of what the defense is doing. If you don't have someone in the backfield and you only have one halfback back there and no lead blocker, they just have to bring a certain blitz, a safety somewhere where, yeah, you can run it, but there's an unblocked guy who's going to meet him 4 yards deep in the backfield. So now you have to have check with me. You got to do stuff, which is fine, and everyone does that. But now you can't just dictate your own stuff, so that's why I like it.
One of the benefits of getting Jimmy was he did have a little bit of experience just being in the league. Having gone through 3 playoff runs with New England, are there parts of the process that he's adapted to easily, or he's already been familiar with, having been from that scenario that you've seen?
Yes, I think that's one of the bigger things. Just Jimmy just going and being able to go to those Super Bowls, watch those playoff games, being able to go through the whole process and stuff. You do see all the extra outside stuff that does come with it. So you're not overwhelmed by it at all. Jimmy knows exactly what's going to happen before it happens because he's been through it at New England. And I do think that's an advantage for players and for coaches, just because you know what's ahead, and so it doesn't surprise you. So it's pretty easy to just stay the course.
In what ways does Nick Bosa affect an offensive game plan?
Anybody who you struggle to block one-on-one affects it a ton. I don't care how good of tackles there are. When there's certain edge rushers, and there's a few of them in this league, and Bosa's one of them. But when those guys can affect the quarterback on any play, you got to be very smart. If I don't care who the tackle is for a certain type of rushers, if the guy he's going against is a real good player and he knows you're throwing it every down, that guy's not going to be able to block him eventually. So you got to take all that into account, whether you help, how to run the ball, a lot of things like that. And but if you only have one guy out there, it's a lot easier to help too. When you got a little bit more guys like we do, it makes it tougher.
In Youngstown and in your trip in Florida, you and players talked about lack of distractions. You basically lived in a hotel yourself. You also had 500 yards of offense in both of those games. Fun fact. But anyway, is there any sort of connection to that as far as you being in that zone or in that environment?
I'm going to get our whole offense and myself in trouble with our families. No, I don't connect that. I just think it was just how it worked out, the way the defenses went, the way the game went. But trust me, if I believed it was that, we'd be in a hotel all year.
Before came back from that hamstring strain initially and then quickly aggravated it. Did you guys wait longer in the process this time to get him back into practice?
Yes, we did wait longer. It was more, and we're trying to be smarter about it. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's and I think D is also. I mean, it's tough for athletes in these situations. They want to play no matter what. And when we look back at New Orleans, I think D was a little bit tight before the game, but that's a little tight. You know, he knows how much we're counting on him to go out, so like he's not going to come up and just say, "Hey, coach, I'm a little tight." And no one totally knows. He thought he could go, and the way D Ford comes off the ball, and it was fourth play of the game, he came off hard and he tweaked his hamstring again. So now we can look back, and D can learn from that, and I can learn from that too. That I hope D, if he feels that tight, he can come tell me. And now I know from that history of what happened in New Orleans. Oh, you're feeling like that? Well, I know what that means, man. And then we have to make a decision whether we want to make that gamble or not.
Coach, you mentioned all the extra work, the added pressure. Have you found time to enjoy this yet? I mean, this is what you've worked for all season and your whole life, to be in the playoffs with a chance for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you enjoy. It's a better feeling, especially when you have an off day, which we got after the Seattle game. Got a couple of them, but it feels good. But all you think about is the next game. I mean, I will say it because I've felt this way as a fan my entire life. I felt this way as a coach, but I really believe there's only one team happy at the end of the year. You can be positive and stuff, but that gets you excited. But I mean, no matter what happens, I mean, there's only going to be one team that's truly happy at the end of this year, and we've gotten to a point that we're excited about where we got, especially compared to these last 2 years. But we have one expectation now, so we're not going to sit back and enjoy what we've done, because now it's about what you're doing right now and where you're going.
In your opinion, just last year we were asking you questions about Robert Saleh's job security. Now he's interviewing for a head coaching job. Just in your opinion, what's that say about sort of the roller coaster element of being a coach in this league and how he's dealt with all of that?
That's just, I think it's good for Saleh to go through it, because that's just how it is. I mean, I had to go through it a lot too as a coordinator, and sometimes people aren't used to that. You're not going to be until you go through it, and it happens for coordinators usually. Sometimes it doesn't happen until you become a head coach, but I think that stuff's great for people. I mean, I hated going through it myself. It's not fun for yourself, and it's worse for your family. But that's the reality of our business. And if you think that if you're getting into this business to show everyone how good you are not going to have a very happy life, because you're not in control of that. You do as good as you can, and Saleh's been good. He's always been good, and that's stuff you just try to tell him, and that's why it was never a question for me. I knew how good he was, and we all get better too. But there's so many variables that go into the sport, and same thing I tell quarterbacks, tell everyone. I mean, everyone in this business knows how it's going to be if something bad does happen, but that happens in sports, and you got to be able to deal with it. And Saleh's a great coach, and I hope to have him here for a long time. But I also know whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whatever, Saleh's too good and too unique. There's a matter of time before he is a head coach.
The fact that 3 road teams won last week kind of follows a trend all season in which I think road teams have won a greater percentage of games this season than in many years. I was wondering why you think that has happened this year, and whether you think that home field advantage still exists or if it has changed.
It definitely exists, and it's just random. It's global warming. There's home field advantage. It's harder to play when you can't hear. That doesn't mean you're going to lose, but I mean it's a fact. It's harder to play on the road, but that definitely doesn't mean you can't win, as everyone proves each week.
You were 0-8 on the road last year. During the offseason, did you do a study to see what you could do differently at any point in the process of going on the road, or is it just one of those things that worked out better?
No, I just looked at it as I don't think our record at home was that great either, and it's harder on the road. So I just thought we needed to become a better team, and if you become a better team, you usually get better in every area.
So did your father have to chill you out, like when he was in the playoffs? Like what was that like?
Yeah, a little bit. He had patience with me, but eventually he would put me in my place, and I'd have to leave him alone. And then it was between my mom and I the rest of the week.